Hello, model railroaders. Brian Page here. I think I mentioned in my last video that I had purchased a kit that I was going to build, and that is the Walthers Glacier Gravel Company. And I have been kind of divided on what to do about this. There have been other people that have made videos about building this kit. And I wasn't too sure if I was going to build it on somebody's live stream or do it on a video. But I had people in the comments say, yeah, we'd like to see that. So I'm going to make some videos on it. But before I do that, I have to make a disclaimer. If you think that I'm some kind of expert on building these model kits, think again. So the problem is that I have a tendency to get a little sloppy with the glue. And unfortunately, that leads to other issues. I'm having trouble for some reason picking up the parts, and yeah, this just isn't starting out as well as I'd hoped. Before I get started with this Walthers Glacier Gravel Company, whatever it's called, I decided to show you some tools I've assembled here, which are very important for working with Walthers model kits. So, you know, here we have our nippers, some tweezers, a ruler might come in handy, of course the X-Acto knife, and I do have a lot of blades for it. I also have an X-Acto saw and some glue. That's my absolute favorite. Tamiya extra thin cement. Love that stuff. It gets right down into the cracks. And a file, nail file that has several different buffing coarsenesses to it. And of course a gluing jig. Which, by the way, I got from Cousin Vinny's Amazon site, and I will put a link below for this. Very handy gluing jig. Keeps your walls square, if that should be necessary. And, you know, of course, we have other tools. The brown bottle here may be the most important for a Walthers kit. Just saying. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I've seen several other people that did videos about building this kit. And I don't want to be repetitious with this, so I'm going to throw a little twist into this whole thing. I am going to attempt to build this kit following the Walthers directions. I'm sure that we all know Walthers instructions are really good. And yeah, I'm going to try to follow these directions exactly. What could possibly go wrong? So step number one, determine the length and routing you want for the conveyor assemblies. One assembly can angle downwards to connect with the trunk dump base. The other can run more or less horizontally toward the actual quarry operation, which can be off stage on your layout. Yes. Problem is, I don't know yet how long these things are going to have to be. So what I'm planning to do is to just build them all. And if I have to cut them down later, I'll do it that way. Well, let's get started. To begin with, I'm going to cut some parts off these sprues. 54, 53s, 52s, and 51s. Yeah, I need them all. So I'm going to start cutting these out. I use the nippers for this. I have found out that in the past that when cutting these with a knife, they don't always lay flat, although this one kind of is. Let's try that. Maybe I can do it. seems to be working. Yeah, I have found in the past that it would break the small parts, and yeah, that's always a nuisance. So I'm going to try that with the knife. Yeah, it does seem to be laying flat, so that's a good thing. I'm actually kind of amazed by that. All right, I'm going to keep on cutting parts, and then we'll be back. So while I was cutting the sprue marks off of these parts and sanding them, one thing I noticed is that these little legs right here, there was 3 of them that were attached to the sprue. And it's almost impossible to get these things the same height, which is important because they are going to go onto the sides of this part where the ribs are. And so they have to be the same height. That's one thing I noticed. The other thing I noticed is that all these parts were attached to the sprues in this kit. When they molded this thing, these parts are attached like in 18 places. So, whew, that's fun. Yeah, lots of fun. Okay, so I'm going to keep on sanding here. Yeah, so with these little legs, what I'm finding out is it's probably best just to put it on a file and go long ways with it, and that kind of gets them all to the same height. And that's, like I said before, that's going to be important because these have to attach by these ribs on this part. So that's the best way I've found so far. We'll continue on. Alright, so I've got all my little pieces, 2 sprues worth, filed down. All the little burrs are off of them. And I guess we will start gluing these together. I can tell you, just based on what I just did here with the filing and the cutting and everything, it may take me about 6 months to get this video put out. That's ridiculous. So I think this kit's going to be more than a 1-part video. Yeah. Well, I've been trying to figure out a clever way to use this gluing jig and get these little pieces together. Now there's these little parts, these little side rails here have little bumps on the inside. Those have to go towards the inside of this conveyor. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out a good way to do this, but I really haven't figured out anything really great. So the only thing I've been doing is putting a little dot of glue every once in a while next to these ribs, if you can see that, and then I'm putting this together over by the wall of the gluing jig, and that's about the best thing that I have found out so far. And it's not perfect, believe me. And then once I let that set up for a second, then I go ahead and drip glue on the rest of the ribs. So that's about the best I can do. All right, so I've got my 4 little halves of a conveyor started here. Yeah, still never found a better way to do it, but they seem to be sticking together. So I'm going to move on to getting the other sides on. Wow, this is a piece of work. That is some tiny work right there. I'd rather be putting walls together. Can't wait to get to the rest of the kit. All right. Okay, so I have all 4 of these with the sides on. And this one I have laid the top rail or the bottom rail, I don't know what it is, in between the sides, resting on the pegs. Let me see, do I have this at the ends? Yeah, okay. Looks like it's in the right place. I moved it. All right. So these top pieces right here lay in between the sides and rest on the little pegs on the inside of those sidewalls. And once they are in there, what I'm going to do, I don't have that one in right, but what I'm going to do here is just drop some glue in the crack here. So there we go. There's one of them glued in the top, and what we end up with is a nifty little square. Nifty little square conveyor. All right. Well, I have my 4 little sections of conveyor finished here. It turned out pretty good. I was afraid they weren't going to be square or something like that, but actually, yeah, they look all right. I'm going to probably throw some more glue on the bottom of these legs right here, just to make sure that it sticks together. But I guess the idea here is that depending on how much length you need on these conveyors for your layout, you can stick these two together, and then you can see there's little notch holes formed, and that then would fit onto one of these supports if that matches up with, you know, the height of what you need on the layout. So and they say in the instructions here that you can cut these down, you know, depending on what the height is that you need. So anyway, whew, that was some fiddly work right there. When I do stuff like this, I wish I had a modeled HO. This N scale stuff is small. All right, all. So that just became part 1 of the Glacier Gravel Company build. I had to look at the box. I can't remember the name. I'm going to name it something else. But anyway, all I succeeded in doing was building these 4 little conveyors sections. But that is some small fiddly work right there. And so, yeah, this just became part 1. I will continue on. Judging by, let me grab these instructions here. Judging by what I'm seeing here in the instructions, I think that was the worst part. Yeah. I think the rest of it's going to be a little bit easier. So maybe I can cram more stuff into the next video. I hope so. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, drop me your comments and give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you at the next stop.